Hi friends, pull up a yoga mat. We're going to practice the triangle pose sequence today. Some of us know as Trikonasana. Wise to begin with a few sun salutations or moon salutations before you jump right in. Rooting and grounding through your feet. Rising up through your core. Rolling a bit through your shoulders. Maybe even pressing into your palms and inviting your shoulder blades to wake up a bit. And then as you're ready, finding space. Some of us call this five-pointed star. Samastitihi, these are the points we begin with in classical yoga. Moving through, this is actually the first triangle pose. And then inviting one hand to move. You'll see maybe near your shin, maybe to the mat. Maybe you'll take a moment and find a block. And of course you'll remember your block has at least a few different levels and playing with that. And if possible, allowing the good, better, best to release and to feel what it is that your body might need right now. Playing with it, allowing experimentation. So you may notice my toes are facing forward. I haven't turned my feet at all. This is a little different than many of us have been taught our triangle pose. And when you're ready, we'll come on up and take it to the other side. And you, of course, can adjust your feet. And you may need to adjust things on this side. It might feel quite different. It might feel similar. I have my top palm facing forward as opposed to back away from me. Finding your breathing, maybe inviting Ujjayi breath. Some of us call it ocean breath. Some call this breath victory breath. Some of us call this breath the sound of the serpent. And then coming on up, sometimes I find my hips when I feel a little off balance before I pivot on the feet. Now I will turn my feet more into a warrior-like position, and from this place, bowing halfway forward, preparing for twisted triangle. Opposite hand comes down compared to matching hand, blocks or not, up to you. Playing with it, seeing what makes sense for you in this moment. Top hand comes down, bottom hand comes up. And finding our way back to center space, holding hips or not, up to you. That's just what makes sense for me sometimes. Finding space, twisted triangle, other side, bowing forward, opposite hand down, matching hand up compared to leg that's now in front. Finding breathing. Finding the gaze that suits you and your balance. Pressing into the feet like you mean it as you adjust your arms, coming up and returning center. Now let's create legs that are more like that warrior position where the front knee bends and the back leg stays long and strong. Often when I work with my classical teacher, we are in the postures, the asanas, for a few breaths, if not more than a few, maybe several. And that's the idea of Hatha or Hatha yoga, that we're strengthening while we're holding the posture and we're focusing on the breathing. Pranayama, as some of us refer to it, the breath work. Brain and breath, best friends. One of my favorite things my teacher will say. And so now some of us know this as an extended side angle. It's part of the classical triangle sequence. When you're ready, the bottom hand will come down inside or outside the foot, block or not, up to you. I tend to think this is maybe where the half moon variation may have come from. Adjusting your feet so you feel steady and sturdy, bottom hand coming up to meet the top. Bottom hand settles down again, maybe a little diagonal out from your pinky toe side of foot, and the back foot lifts up. You could push through your heel, you could wrap through your toes, your top hand comes up, finding your breathing. Giving that standing leg a bend and maybe doing a little lifting up and down, bending and extending. And then as you wish, when you extend that bottom leg, lifting the bottom hand, bringing palms together, improvising as you find your balance. My gaze is a little off to the side from my big toe side of front foot. And then releasing down, coming up, returning to center, maybe finding a moment, and we'll take it, to the other side where we'll bend that, what is now your front knee, find more of an extended side angle, find your breathing. So I have my front elbow leaning just above my knee into upper leg, finding breathing, welcoming balance in the middle of it all. If you like, keeping your legs, your foundation as is, lifting your bottom hand up for palms to meet. When you're ready, the bottom hand comes down, block or not, up to you. The back leg lifts, finding your balance, finding your gaze, finding what your back foot needs to be up to support all of that, and maybe bending your standing leg and then extending, finding breathing. And finally, once you extend, maybe, just maybe, see about lifting that bottom hand, finding your breathing. Releasing down as you're ready and coming back up. Let's switch sides once again for this next part of sequence. Finding space, fingers interlaced, palms to sky, and bowing forward. So my legs are in that triangle position. It's a forward fold with that stance. If you want to have blocks under your hands, you're welcome to. I have one on this side, so I might lift up onto one and welcome some space into your long, beautiful spine. You might release more. When you're ready, we'll lift up and see about the hands coming behind you to find elbows, almost elbows, or prostangeli, what we call the back salute. So it could be palm to palm meeting behind the heart center, if that works for you, and then bowing forward. Noticing the weight distributed evenly between the feet as I do a little shifting and shaking here, celebrating the shaking. Lifting head and heart, fingertips release, and we'll lift that back foot up. Blocks or not, always up to you. I tend to start with my hands in front of my foot, then lifting up, and then releasing my head closer to my bottom leg. You might walk your hands back near your foot. You might hold one hand, one leg with one hand. You might switch and see how it works.
You could eventually try both. Those top tippy toes might reach up a tiny bit higher, so eventually you're coming into a standing split. And then we'll bring that foot down and fingers interlace in the classical sequence. And we'll pivot on the feet and go to the other side, opening up and finding out what works on this side, which might be a little different than the first side, adjusting the feet as need be. Sometimes I do a little heel toeing. Sometimes it lines up for heel to heel of the foot or feet to give me balance. Sometimes it's my front heel to the middle of my back foot, and other times I just need more space. Finding out what you need. Allowing yourself a moment to find that out, to experiment. As you're ready, finding four corners of both feet rooting and grounding, coming on up with that classical fingers interlaced, palms to sky, hands moving behind you to find the elbows, almost elbows, see what you come up with, or Prastanjali, back salute. A little opening and then a bowing forward. Lifting head and heart a bit, releasing the hands, blocks or not, up to you, improvising if you have one block over here like I do, and lifting that back foot as you prepare for more of a standing split. Your head might make its way closer to your standing leg. And maybe you'll work with one hand holding the back of the low leg. Maybe you'll work with the other. Maybe you'll do a bit of both. Releasing the foot as you gently bring the gaze up, fingers interlace, palms to sky. Let's take it back to the first side where we'll bend the knee again and we'll invite the hands in front. So we're working with different shoulder rotation here. Find your warrior stance, your Virabhadrasana stance, and then arms reaching out and around and up. And this is actually a sequence of warrior 1 through 6. And then we'll come on down. And as we find our way, this is actually warrior 3 in the classical sequence. We'll come up to warrior 4, which many of us know as warrior 3. So I say take the arm pattern, wing pattern, flight pattern that gives you balance. You know, you can go out to side, you know, you can go alongside, maybe hands stay at heart, maybe your hands are holding the blocks and you're not lifting hands yet. And eventually hands will come in front of you, and then we'll bend that standing knee again and do a little bending and extending time. And when you're ready, maybe you'll find Kali Mudra overhead, the great goddess of change. 4 fingers point, others interlace, thumbs stack. Releasing the fingertips if it's helpful, and then bringing the back foot down for sure, bringing the fingertips down now. And let's interlace fingers, palms press. We'll extend, and once again, we'll bring hands behind us. Playing with the placement of your feet so you can find balance. You might interlace fingers behind you. You might bring palms together. All options. You might find elbows. You might find Prastanjali. I usually need to eat a great big bowl of oatmeal after this sequence and bowing forward into, some call this humble warrior, some call this devotional warrior. Some bring a block for their head to press into. And some call this warrior 6. Coming on up, and we go again on the other side, pivoting on your feet, finding balance, finding what is now your front knee to bend, reaching out and up overhead, bowing forward. Finding the stance that suits you as far as how far apart feet are and where that front foot is compared to back foot. And from this place, we'll lift the back foot. Usually my hands need to come forward a bit. You can press through your heel, you can wrap through your toes, see what helps your balance. Maybe give a little bend to that front knee. Find your flight pattern. Maybe doing a little bending and extending. Extending, breathing, finding breathing. Releasing hands, releasing foot, coming on up, fingers interlace if possible. Get there however it works for you. Hands behind you. Elbows, Prastanjali, Kali Mudra, bowing forward. Humble, devotional, warrior, Virabhadrasana 6. Pressing down, returning to center space. We have a bit more. Finding breathing, finding balance. A wide stance, forward fold. Notice where your feet are, notice where your toes are. Notice where your weight is distributed. Notice where you feel balanced. Notice if your knees want to bend or extend. Bowing forward. Maybe grab your blocks. Maybe not. Maybe releasing to your hands. Maybe a block will catch your head again. You can bend your elbows back towards your body if that works for you. Lifting head and heart, finding your hands to the outer edges of your legs, or maybe you'd like to wrap your peace fingers around your big toes as you release your head and heart, elbows move away from you. Lifting head and heart. Let's interlace fingers, palms press away, coming on up, bringing hands behind you once again, finding elbows, almost elbows, adjusting stance as needed, perhaps the back salute, Prastanjali, maybe a little opening, and then a bowing forward. Lifting head and heart, releasing your hands and walking hands over toward one foot. If it works for you, Your matching hand could hold on to the back of your ankle near your heel. Your opposite hand could wrap around the foot and hold the outer edge, and you might act as if you're peeking between your elbows. If that doesn't work for you, find your blocks and improvise. What does work for you? Where can you lift up and find some space? Where can you breathe? Where do you have balance? And where are you releasing? And where are you leaning into your feet? And can you distribute weight evenly? And then we'll walk the fingertips on over to the other side. So again, your matching hand could move to the back of your ankle near your heel, and your opposite hand could come to the outer edge of the foot, finding breathing. Coming center. Let's bring it down to what I first learned as goddess squat. Some call it malasana or garland pose. You're welcome to turn it into your garden seat and have blocks under your seat. You're welcome to have a roll of blanket or mat under your heels. Your heels could come down. Elbows could be above the knees. There's always options. Elbows could move inside the knees. Palms could press together. And as we move toward the autumnal equinox, what will you birth in this new season? What will you open yourself up to and breathe with? All of the unknown, looking to our practices to guide us through the unknown. Releasing your seat and taking that wide stance to a seat now. You could have blocks nearby in case it's helpful. You can press through your heels, you can wrap through your toes. You can even give yourself a boost of blanket under your seat, or a roll under your knees can be helpful. Sometimes the backs of our legs really need to release. Finding space and finding release. Maybe a block or two, maybe not. Maybe you're going to stay with your fingertips clawing, as we like to say. Maybe you're really focusing on that hip crease and what happens if you move forward from that place rather than part of your back. Maybe when you move forward and part of your back moves forward, it feels just right for you. We do not need to all look the same in our practice. We do not need to look like the photos in the magazine or online. We need to learn how to tend to this body and this breathing. Please give yourself that moment to play with. And as you feel complete, fingers interlace, palms press, hands move behind you, finding elbows, almost elbows, or the good old back salute, Prastanjali. Finding your breathing. I am so ever grateful for Sir Srivatsa Ramaswamy for his teachings. I've been lucky to find him in a variety of places and in the UK, and he's back in India now teaching a lot online. He's in his 80s. Isn't that a beautiful thing? Teaching all that he's learned from his teacher, Krishnamacharya, continuing to share his stories and his knowledge and his studies with us. And I can still hear his voice
after checking in with us and finding out where our breathing is, saying, take rest, take rest. So as the sun sets earlier, I can feel my body telling me, take rest, take rest. And I still have that bit of summertime in me that wants to stay awake and not take rest. And my body is saying, no, it's time for change. Modern life makes it tricky sometimes to listen to our bodies, right? So the more we practice, the more it starts to make sense. Taking your shavasana, if that's what you call it, your constructive rest. Taking rest, however it suits you. I'll be back with another video soon. Please give yourself some time to rest. Supine, prone, legs up wall, legs up a cushion, legs up a chair, whichever you might have nearby at home. And I'll see you soon. Thank you, friends, for sharing practice with me. May our transition into autumn be peaceful. May we each find our breathing. May we each remember how to take good care and take rest.